Everyone, to start off, I got two questions for you. By show of hands, how many of you have heard of the company Niantic? Yeah, only a couple. Now, how many of you have heard of Pokemon Go? A lot more people, as suspected. For those who haven't heard of Pokemon Go, it's an augmented reality game, location-based. So you walk around and you capture new Pokemon in order to fill your Pokedex. You capture new gyms to show off your team pride. I've been playing Pokemon Go since the launch. I've walked over 260 miles. To put that in retrospect, that's from here all the way to Las Vegas. And I'm barely halfway through the game. The level cap is level 40, and that's around 10 million experience, I believe, and I'm only 29,000 in. I believe this is relevant to everyone, since most of you have heard of Pokemon Go, and it's interesting to see how a company can go from such a great idea to ruining the game for everyone who's played it. I would like to explain to you guys the three main reasons on how Niantic is killing their own game. Their lack of communication, the fact they took out the main point of the game, and the little to no features that are being added, or the lack of fixes that are in place. Sadly, many companies don't pay attention to their user base as much as they should. Just to name a few, all of the Call of Duty developers never paid. That's from here to Las Vegas. All the Call of Duty developers never paid attention, such as Treyarch, Infinity Ward, and Sledgehammer Games. Niantic obviously have never paid attention because the community itself has showed them many bugs and many problems and many solutions to their problems on how to fix it, and there have been no reply from them. Another example is Overkill Software. They've never listened to their community. These companies have been notorious for never listening to their user base. There was an infamous case of where users submitted a ticket to Niantic about not receiving their items, and this was their infamous response. They were replied with the letter R. It was after 35 days that he finally got his response, and it was just the letter. This has been a notorious case, and it's been referenced as a meme throughout Reddit about any time someone asks for help. That's all the reply they get. It's just a simple R, just to show how Niantic. Another example of Niantic's lack of communication is their bad client and server balance. People's games were freezing when they were throwing Pokeballs and randomly stopped tracking their distance when walked. The game would completely stop working. The servers were constantly down. People who paid real life money to spawn more Pokemon around them for the next 30 minutes missed their 30 minutes. Then they had to send a support ticket and the loop just continued. It got so bad people expected to be down. Sadly, they were right victorious time. This is the picture that everyone was receiving when the servers were down, and this was a normal occasion. It was more likely the servers were down than them being up. They even failed at the little things. When the whole user base is reporting the same bug over and over again, developers need to be more outspoken. A simple "we are aware of the bug and we're fixing it" goes a long way. Tracking the progress of communication has been slow, but a steady climb up. Recently, they have been explaining what will be in the new update and the occasional realization of a bug. Speaking about tracking brings us to the second way Niantic is ruining Pokemon Go. They decided to single-handedly take out the best part about the early parts of the game lifespan. When the trailer first released, everyone was excited about tracking the Pokemon, not just throwing the Pokeballs. This is shown in their trailer, right? So that was just a 22-second clip about tracking Pokemon Go. Now, before they took it out, it wasn't as extensive as that. We had 3 footsteps, and every time you walk closer to the Pokemon, it would go down to 2, and then 1, and then eventually be on your screen. They took it out only 24 days into the game. The game has been out since, like I said before, July 6th. So that's 4 months without the core of the game, and many players have been leaving the game and stopped playing for a while. Santa Monica Pier has a picture of, or someone named Santa Monica Pier took a picture of it, and it was filled with people. There was many people running around catching Pokemon. And nowadays, there's just a lot less people. The only people that are there are the normal beachgoers and the occasional Pokemon Go players. Without tracking, you wouldn't have been able to see your Pokemon. For example, in this picture, there shows a Dragonite, and it's just a silhouette, which means that the person has not captured one. In many cases, a Dragonite is a person's favorite Pokemon, and they will run around aimlessly trying to find their Dragonite. So the sightings shows approximately 200 meters, and so you can go loopy-loops all the way around and you'll never find it. It only stays there for 15 minutes, so the user has only 15 minutes to go get it. Ironically, there were third-party trackers that other people made. And the very same day that Niantic took down their tracker, they also took down third-party trackers. So it made it so no one was able to track any Pokemon throughout the game. Tracking also boosted player interactions with other people. One of my best memories while playing Pokemon Go was I was at a local park at 2 a.m. We were all searching for one Pokemon called Dratini. And as soon as one person found it, they yelled and they shouted about that found it. And everyone in the park ran to that specific location. It was one of my best memories, and although my best memories of playing Pokemon Go. And although the Pokemon was great that I did catch, that memory will last a really long time. But sadly, we will never get that experience again. The third way Niantic is killing their game is the little to no features and the lack of bug fixes. Being a developer myself, I understand pushing new features and fixing bugs can be a tough thing to do. The obvious choice would be to fix the features that are already in the game, rather than add new things to it. It's been 3 to 4 months since we've had a working tracker. International Business Times has told us that Pokemon Go has raked in more than $440 million from the App Store and Google Play. That figure is from a month ago, so they've easily had more than $44 million. They have no reason for them not being able to add features that we need and bug fixes that they don't have. With every step that they're taking forward, it seems they're taking another step back. There's been a lot of people who loved the game when it first started. Everyone was playing it, from young people to old people, parents to teachers. Everyone was playing Pokemon Go. People who have never played Pokemon Go, people who loved playing the games in the 90s. It was a great experience while it lasted, and it's slowly dying out. Niantic never actually explained the base Pokemon Go model. All they gave us was that trailer, and it's kind of sad since the trailer shows something that's not in the game anymore. They never explained the base of the game. They never explained what grass really was in the game. They only explained that you throw the Pokeballs and capture the gems. There's a whole subreddit, and for those who don't know what Reddit is, it's basically like a web forum. And this whole subreddit is dedicated to tracking down the ins and outs of Pokemon Go. So they will, for instance, hatch 1,000 eggs, and they'll share the results and the percentages of Pokemon hatched from these eggs. That's just one example. So many people are playing the metagame, which means they're playing the game to figure out the game, if that makes sense. They're getting more, or they're figuring out the game so Niantic doesn't have to do their work and explain it to us. They will explain it to us for us. In conclusion, this game was easily one of the most hyped games in many years. Every demographic was playing the game, like I said. Young, old, parents and children, people who loved Pokemon Go while growing up, people who never played the original game. Niantic had such a huge opportunity to make a great game, but instead they showed us how to ruin such a great idea. The lack of communication, taking down the tracker, and the lack of improvements to the app itself led to the destruction of Pokemon Go and Niantic's reputation. Thank you.
Thank you. So Aiden, what did you think?
Well, I like the way he started with asking us questions, basically catching our attention with something that you wouldn't, like, most people would normally just start with. This is what's going on here, this and this. I'm going to be talking to you about this. Or he started with, have you ever heard of this? Many of you haven't? Well, I bet you've heard of this. And then with that second thing, it really draws us in because most people know Pokemon Go. So throughout his speech, I liked how he would go in depth with what Pokemon had to offer, what they didn't offer, and basically lies or things that the company said they would give us but didn't. And I like how he added in that as a developer himself, he understands some of the things they did, but others that they didn't do, he doesn't understand why they didn't. He did read from his script a lot, but I think in the end it was a really good speech, a lot of details and information given to all of us.
All right. Well, I thought the questions were okay. They seemed a little bit lazy. I think you could have had something that was more dramatic, but I do agree with Aiden that the idea of setting up, well, do you know who this company is? Nobody knows. And they say, well, how about Pokemon Go? Then everybody knows that one. I thought that does work pretty well at identifying the topic and getting us there. I think your thesis needs to be a little bit more specific. I know that this is a criticism of the way the developer has followed through on their game, and it's basically an explanation about how you think the game is going to die or is dying as a consequence of this. I think you need to get, I'm sure there are plenty of people in here with your audience analysis who have played the game or know a little bit about the game. I mean, I've heard of the game. I know basically what's going on there. I've never played the game. I've got a nephew that has played that with his mom, and they know a little bit about what's going on, but it's not something that I'm into. And so I needed a little bit more context. When you're talking about the tracking thing, for instance, and you show that in the video, and I'm going, well, if you don't have that, what is there to the game? I'm not sure what the point is, and there was no explanation as to why the tracking got taken out, or if it was announced that it was being taken out. There's a whole discussion about third-party tracking systems, and apparently they're being taken down by the company. How does that happen? Do they not interface with the playing game platform, or is it a legal issue that they go after those companies? I don't really know. And so I felt a little bit like I've dropped into this world and I don't know exactly what's going on. So, I mean, I like the idea of the tracking, that you are following a map or an idea that you're within this distance and so on and so forth. But they've taken out something in the tracking that won't allow you to find the Pokemon. And then you've got an example about how it says you're within 200 meters, but you can spend 15 minutes, the 15 minutes that you're allocated to look for this, and never find it because the tracking no longer functions. Okay. And by the way, I've given a clearer explanation of it than you did, and I don't know anything about the game here. So I think you just you've got good information here, you've got a point that you're trying to make, but you have to put it together in a way that anybody can understand what you're talking about. And it sounds to me like it's more directed at people who already play the game and know something about what's going on, as opposed to somebody who's sitting outside. And so I think that's a little bit of a problem from an audience. Now maybe everybody else here knows exactly what's going on here. But I'm kind of clueless, and I've just given you the best summary I can of the idea, and I'm still trying to figure out, well, how come the tracking thing went away? If that's the point of the game and they took it out of the game, why is anybody buying the game? And apparently they're not anymore. Why would they kill their game? There's no explanation. I know that the world is full of people these subcultures where you were mentioning on Reddit, for instance, where the world is just full of people who are into this kind of stuff. And you do programming, and so that all means something to you. But I'm an outsider, and so if you're trying to lead me through this subculture a little bit, I need a little bit more context. So, for example, you could tell me about the 500,000 people who are on these Reddit sites complaining and bitching about all the stuff that the company has done with their own program. You can tell me how there are 4 Reddit communities who are trying to find a solution for this, or they've started their own version of the game, or whatever the hell it is that they're doing. Something that kind of gives me a little bit more, like I said, context surrounding and that sort of thing. I think you got off on a bad start on the visuals, because I think you had some things planned and you started your speech and then you suddenly realized, oh, and then it was like, let me scroll through 4 things really quick, like to catch up. And that's a little distracting. And then I think the other idea of the video, I think, is a good idea. That shows us, here's what you're supposed to be able to do with the game. That works pretty well. And then you've got that one picture of the, whatever it is, some kind of knight.
Yeah.
Pokemon Knight or something like that. What is it?
Dragon Knight.
Dragon Knight, there you go. Sitting on the cell phone thing, and I'm going, and what am I looking at here? Is this like a notification that it's in the area, that you haven't captured it yet? It's an empty list. It's something to check off. It was just there, and I know that there's an explanation for it, but I didn't really get that explanation. So, like I said, I'm just giving you my context on these sorts of things. You need to talk to us more and read a lot less. You need to kind of, I know you know the subject, so why it is you're having to look at the notes is beyond me. You should just be able to look up and tell us, and maybe if you have to look occasionally at your visuals to remind you about where you're going next, that would be okay. But everything is so much reading and so much that it turns you off a little bit from something that ought to be interesting to talk about. It's a contemporary thing, and even though I don't play it, I know people play it, and I think there's something there worth spending some time on. All right, thank you.